And we did not discuss this beforehand, but it seems appropriate because this is the last discussion group for me to turn to Carolina. And just I was thinking about what I'm feeling about this very last session after 7 weeks of collaboration. So Carolina, um, would you be willing and able to share, just without any advance warning, what you are feeling at this stage and what you'd like to share with the participants?
Um, Hello, everyone. Thanks, Reda, for putting me on the spot. It's mixed feelings, of course, because I have learned a whole lot in the last 17 weeks from all of you. And it's the last session, so I will not know what to do with my Wednesday afternoon. But with all that said, I'm really happy that we are here and that we are still so many in this last stage. We have almost 50 people in the call alone and almost 70 people still trying to complete module A3. We started with over 150. We had 130 finish module A1, close to 100 module A2, and I don't know how many will finish this module A3, but I'm really happy to have been part of this. So over to you.
Thank you, Carolina. And yeah, great to see people who are we now know how it works, seeing some people introduce themselves and just typing in their city and country. It does give us a sense of what this global community and global course means in practice. So we do have, of course, most of you are midstream through getting your final projects done. So that's in many ways the most important step of pulling together everything that you have been learning throughout the preceding weeks and applying it to the actual concrete project that you are to deliver by Sunday. So little tidbits of news and information, some of it more teasers than concrete details, but this is our agenda for the day. And I have asked Dale and Carolina to select a participant to invite to present their creator projects, and hopefully we'll have plenty of time to hear more than one presentation. So whether you are midstream, you haven't started revising yet, in that case, would like you to tell us what you are doing, what feedback you received from your reviewers, and what you would like to, how you are going to, go about your revision. And then if you have actually finished a final project, then we'd love to see it and hear about that as well. So of course, you know that the final deadline in the course is, well, whoops, this will, yeah, sorry about that. This is the wrong slide, but it's the correct date. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, obviously that's very close to a time related to the end of the year festivities. So we do apologize for that, but this was related to the entire schedule of the course. That's also why we did not have a pause in between the modules. That would have probably been welcome for many of us, including members of the course team. But this is the way it is. You've been wonderful and amazing at being persistent and prevailing despite many competing priorities, but despite the fact that all of you are holding down full-time jobs, and we hope that the season will encourage rather than prevent you from getting it done. Now we are looking forward to 2018, and this is going to be and Carolina has, to be confirmed, agreed to set a date of the 24th of January. Oh, okay. Is it? All right, then Carolina tells me that I even got the date wrong. So, and yes, Sunday is the 24th. So that's actually the 24th of December. I apologize. Everything is wrong on that slide. The final version you'll be able to download will have the corrected information. So your deadline is actually the 24th, Sunday. And now to come back to the save the date, looking forward to January. We've identified the date of 24th of January 2018, which is a Wednesday, so it should be a familiar time, and we're hoping that will help some of you schedule it, to actually hold what we call a commencement event. So, of course, this is not a degreed program. Nevertheless, 17 weeks of sustained effort and commitment to complete all 3 modules deserve some recognition. And we're also interested in focusing and hearing from you how what you've been learning will be applied and used to improve the quality of surveys that you are involved with or contributing to in any way. Now, a commencement event is festive, unlike the discussion groups, which are these hopefully very sort of tight sequences, very structured. Commencement event is, if you're familiar with award ceremonies in some countries that tend to go on and on, we're hoping that we'll be able to give some room to people to present their work, to share their experiences of the course, and we won't have a very tight timing. So we've budgeted around 2 hours. We'll try to put the most important interventions. So we'll have some speakers, members of a course team, but also potentially others who will come in to speak during this event. And then if you need to go earlier, we'd rather have you attend as much as you can, even if it's only the first 30 minutes or the first hour. But we will be going as long as we need to make sure that everyone is included. This is also where we'll officially be presenting the certificates for all 3 modules. And again, just to give you a sneak preview, this is a sample certificate of the kind that you will ultimately be receiving. There's some changes to the signatures because of recent changes in the department and so on, but I just wanted to show you, at least before you receive your own, what it is going to look like. And now, so before I go on, do write down that date of 24th of January, 3 p.m. Geneva in your calendar. If you can hold that date and make sure you're available, that's very, very important and very much appreciated. We'll be coming back to you with specifics of what is going to make this an exciting event. And as you saw, we do encourage you to invite your colleagues who might be curious about exactly what you've been doing for 4 months of the last 4 months of the year, partners, and we also encourage you to invite your relatives or your family members if they're wondering if they'd like to see why you were not available during certain weekends, for example, and just to share that we're hoping this will be the kind of event where you'll want to share, and explain give you an occasion to show what it is you do and what it is you've been learning and how it is going to be hopefully useful and helpful to you. So I want to turn now back to Carolina because this, if you remember from the course announcements, which probably hopefully you saw before applying for the 3 digital modules, the A modules, we had a couple of pages for the B1, B2, and B3 modules. And I'd like to turn to Carolina for an update on where we are with respect to what she's able to tell us at this stage, if, when, and how these modules might be happening.
Okay, thank you, Reda. I think this is the most exciting part, and we're still negotiating some of the funding for next year to know how many people we can invite. In fact, I never expected to have so many people finish. So trying to, if you talk to anybody at Gavi, very appreciated if you could mention that this was a good course so we can invite more people to these residential modules. And also we'll be asking you where you are working or will be working or involved with any surveys to try to be opportunistic and try to engage you with the team in that particular country. So again, the people who will be invited are those that complete successfully all 3 modules and that have done all the pieces that include the Wednesday sessions, the 3 peer reviews in each one of the modules, etc. So so nothing probably in the first quarter of the year. Most likely we'll start March, April, once we know a little better our funding situation, to try to invite as many people as we can of the people who have met the requirements. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolina, for that update. All right. The other, sort of what might happen after an experience like this. So I've proposed again to Carolina that we run what we call a design lab, which is basically a kind of online workshop. We've already set up, and you'll find the link in the materials panel to the Survey Scholar alumni community in Scholar. So it's a familiar place. It's just, it's not a specific module, but it's the place where you can find other Survey Scholar alumni, people who've participated in the modules. We don't know if we can or should restrict participation to those who've completed the modules. That's and so around now, what we know about digital communities, I'm hoping that everyone in these modules is now a member of TechNet 21 if you were not before. Obviously, that's a very large global community addressing many issues. So the specific sort of what might constitute a common purpose to actually propel and sustain a community, a little community in Scholar, with people who have this shared experience of having gone through this very intense knowledge development, peer review, learning process over the course of many months, and a shared interest in vaccination coverage surveys. What that might look like would be what the question we'd be trying to answer during this design lab. So it'd be a 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes session in a familiar format, probably using GoToTraining, but the technology doesn't really matter. We'd want to really discuss some of these questions, exploring how this could benefit you and support you in your day-to-day work, and also what you might be willing to contribute. And also, corollary question, but very important one, what kind of support would your organization or manager extend? Yes, so that's what we're hoping to explore. So I'm hoping to be able to follow up with an invitation for a date. So this is different from the commencement event. Commencement is really going to be a celebration of the progress and looking to, to all of the ways in which we're hoping you'll be able to use what you've gained from the intense work you've been doing for the last 17 weeks. And then the design lab, which will really be one of a, parallel to the B modules, will be an alumni community in Scholar. You can already join now, but we'd really like to use your input. And we've seen, I'd like to give you 2 examples of questions that have already come up in the community. So one person, and I think I lost the names along the way, but yes, so I want to thank the people who contributed these questions. One person in the community had a very practical question: how do I add a 95% confidence interval to a column graph in Excel? And then what I really appreciated is that Adama Dakisaga almost immediately replied and said, send me your table and your data, and I'll try to do it and explain to you how to do it. These are maybe this is an example of a need of specific, tangible, real-world problems, however trivial they may seem, or however complex, that a community could address. Another kind of query is this one that Balram actually addressed to the course team, and I'm hoping we're now in the good habit of following up in Scholar. If you go to Scholar and look at non-admin updates, you'll find both of these queries, and hopefully through the community will be, as well as the support of the course team, will be able to answer them. So, but again, we know that online communities are difficult to start up. I think we've certainly done that startup, that ignition phase, if you will. And so the question is, what is actually bringing us together beyond a shared interest in immunization and vaccination coverage survey specifically? So that's what I'm hoping we will explore. So your checklist for week 5 is very simple. One is to submit your final project, so by Sunday. You might want to review the certification requirements, and that'll be the last point about certification. Is you'll be receiving an email similar to the one you received for module A2, so that you can verify that you've actually posted your updates in the wrong place, or if you're missing an update, make sure you post it. Make sure you've completed your 3 peer reviews. And so that will be coming from modules A2 and A3. Hopefully this week. I think we're set to do it this week for A2, and then next week. For module A3, because we know we're waiting. We need to wait at least until Sunday for people to complete their projects. And then just a reminder, this will be your last chance to connect with Carolina on Saturday. For office hours, if you have questions before you submit your final project. And we'll be looking for your feedback on 2 things. One is on module A3. Try to lighten the load and to sort of minimize the static of sending you emails, reminders, and all that. We consider by this point, if you've made it this far, we are going to be asking you for 2 things. One is your feedback on module A3, and then your feedback on your overall experience, and that's obviously going to be very valuable. So that's the last 5 weeks, what we've been doing, and of course, week 5 is about the revision, improvement, and finalization of your modules. And so that's it for my presentation. I think it'd be good. Dale has sent me the week 5 videos, so it'd be good. I don't know, Dale, if you'd like to, if you have any practical issues on which you'd like to update the analysts or comment on the preceding 5 weeks.
Yes, thanks, Rita. Thanks to all of you who've been working so hard. It's been really fun to look at your creator projects and to see the substantive feedback from the peers, peer-to-peer. That's been very rewarding to see people giving good, both encouragement and constructive feedback as well. I was a little bit late making the videos this week, so I've posted some to Rita, which I'm sure will be updated soon, and I hope to make one more before we're finished today. Thanks for your suggestions for different ideas for videos. We won't be able to get to all of them, but I appreciate your suggestions, and look forward to having this community continue in its future incarnation, as Rita has been describing, and to collaborating, one-on-one via email perhaps, but maybe more productively still in a community space. So thank you to Carolina and Rita for setting up the alumni capability, and I look forward to seeing what we have moving forward. So thanks.
Thank you, Dale. And yes, so if you're short on time on the 24th of January, the time slot, we know we'll be starting at 3 p.m. We'll be opening up 30 minutes before for anybody who wants to join. And I would say the first 30 to 45 minutes, the first hour is really where we'll try to pack as much of the substantive, interesting, the most exciting stuff, and then presentations and announcements. But we also want to make sure that everyone who'd like to who would like to present can do so. Even so, we'll work out the specifics and we'll keep you updated through the scholar community. All right. So now, for this week, as you can see, we have 40 minutes remaining, and we really want to focus on the projects that you are finalizing, and I believe both Carolina and Dale have have invited a presenter. So I just want to check with Carolina, and let me see. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, we'll be asking for volunteers. So Carolina is, and shall we start? And my question to Carolina and Dale actually is, shall we start with analysts or managers this week?
Analysts.
Okay, Dale just sent a message saying managers, and you heard Carolina. So, all right, I think it was managers who started, who took up most of the time in week 4. So, Dale, is it all right to start with the managers? And I believe you've identified. And would you like to introduce the presenter? Okay, all right. So we'd like to turn to Suleiman Sakande, and I believe Suleiman, you've been invited and or warned that we'd be calling on you. Suleiman, how are you doing?
Good, and you?
Very well, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I'm going to make you the presenter. And
Okay.
Dale, given the sort of analyst content, would you like to, can you make an executive decision on how much time we should Suleiman should be given to present?
Yes, I think. Well, let's start with something like 7 minutes and see where we're at after 7 minutes.
Okay. All right, Suleiman. So keeping in mind that you have survey managers, survey manager colleagues who have not been working on the Creator project, one of your objectives should be to make as clear, a presentation to non-analysts, for survey managers, as well as address, your fellow analysts in the audience. So with that said, I will now start the clock. And again, what we want to hear is both what you put into your project, but also what you are doing with the feedback you received to improve, revise, and finalize it.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. For my project, we had to present data cleaning plan, and also describing the plan for waiting. After that, we had to prepare table shell for 5 hectares, and to calculate the result of one of our table, and present article study for one vaccination coverage. And to summarize the method, that, and to identify some concern and conditioning. Okay. So for the first point, it concerns data cleaning. Here I have first I organized this point by some little points. First, I take it for data duplicate record, and after that for missing information, and for correct range, and also for aberrant information, and finally for logic consistency. So for the first point, for duplicate record, we can have duplicate.
Sorry to interrupt you, Suleiman. Sorry to interrupt for a second, but you seem to be sometimes too far from your microphone to be able to hear, to really get good audio. And then the other thing is you may be breathing into the microphone, which is creating static. So if you want to get closer to your microphone, but not speak directly into it, that tends to be the best practice. Thank you. And sorry for the interruption.
Okay. No problem. Can you hear me very well now?
Yes, beautiful.
Okay. So I've talked about duplicate record. I said that I first check it for duplicate information related first to all variable, so we can have duplicate for all variable in the database, and we can also have duplicate record for only a ID variable. I have to note to indicate something here. Even if we have used tablet, we can have duplicate record because as you know, we have many cluster, and we have, after the data collection, to merge the data of the whole cluster. So from cluster to cluster, we can have a duplicate record. And as I said, after that, I've checked it for missing information for the ID and for the rest of variable, and the correct range for the date, and also for the other variable. And after that, I've checked it for the aberrant information, as you can read here, for the variable which can take 0, 1, or 9. We should not have any other value for this variable. So I think the most important thing for this project was the calculation of the result of the one table. Here, the most challenge is how to export data in Excel file. We know all of us how to calculate the coverage using some Stata command, but how to export the result from Stata in Excel or in Word? We can use, we have some command of Stata which can do that. We have put Excel command, we have Autorect2 command, and we have some programming command which can do that. But the problem is the command we will use for the calculation. I will show you my Stata syntax for that. Here, what I did is to calculate for all antigen, and by some variable. I've calculate by sex, by state, by zone, by also sorry, area, education, age group, welfare index. So for this, by for example, by sex, we have here the command, the Stata command for survey use the cluster, the Stata, the weight. But after that, we have to use some command, some Stata command. This is programming command to export the result in Excel. Here I have first to create the name of the command of the variable I will export, the result I will export. After that, I will create the file to export, the file to the name of the file to export. And after that, I will create here the header, the name of the variable that will contain the result. So after that, what I will do is to use, normally I have here to use the proportion command to calculate my coverage, but we have to keep the result of the the command, the result after the calculation, we have to keep that result, and after that to export it. If I use here the proportion command, I'm not able to have this value. This value is symbolized here by here. This is for the result of the coverage. Here, this is the result of the lower bound confidence interval, and here the upper bound confidence interval. So to keep that and to have it after in my file, I have to use here this command that has been developed by Dale. I know that because I have already used Ziki, and this here can allow us to have this value. We can use some other command like amins, but this command is not compatible with SVY, the command of the survey. So I will be back in my project. Please. So after the calculation of the table, I think the second challenge was also to generate the graphical summary. I know this can be done with Excel, but I've tried to do that with SATA. We can show here the command of this.
And just Suleiman, because you are out of time, so if you could show us the table and figure and then conclude, please.
Okay, thank you. So sorry.
And you have a comment from Aliou So, who says, great syntax, Suleiman.
What? Please?
You have a colleague, Aliou So, who comments in the chat, who compliments you for your excellent syntax.
Thank you okay. This is the table I filled the table for the create coverage, and here this is the graphic I've generated with Stata. So I have to review the title to specify the what, the when, and the where. So for the exportation in Excel, I got it I got it in this kind of table by antigen, and after that I concatenate to have the confidence interval and to put it in the table. Yes. This is how it's produced after using the command. It's automatic, and it comes like this. And after that, I can copy here and here all the column and all the column to put in my Excel table here. as all is already sorted by variable I use.
Okay, Suleiman, thank you. We have some comments and I think at least one question for you, and then Dale is going to I'm going to ask Dale to share his feedback. So Carolina's comment, she says, very good. You have good management of Stata also. We have actually a question on for the survey managers addressed to Carolina, who Onojo Otowo, who asks, can we include a brief background and survey objectives in the survey findings from the Managers Creator project? We'll let Carolina answer that. She'll probably do so in the chat. And then Noor Fateon Draman Palenfo, who says, well done, Suleiman, for the picture output. Is it possible to sort the coverage ascending or descending? Thieblé Traoré says the scale of the y-axis is a concern. So would you like to respond to Noor Fateon and Thieblé's comments, please?
Yes, it's possible for this question. It's possible to short the queries as he asked. It is possible with Stata. It's possible.
Okay, yeah. And the concern about the y-axis?
Y-axis for?
Let's hear from Thieblé. Thieblé, what is your concern about the y-axis, please?
Yeah, well, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I thought these were percentage. If you look at the Excel file, you can see the percentage. But one of the assignments is not to present in 1.1.
Yes, yes, you are right. I had to just to add year. Yes, I had to add year 100. I forgot to add it here by generating coverage variable in my file. I had to put 100. This is why it is in percentage. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We're now going to go to Dale for some more summative feedback. And
great. Thanks, Reda. Thank you so much for volunteering, Suleiman, to present. I wanted to just have him present because he's really done a nice job of wrestling with the topic of taking the analysis up to scale. And it's easy to do some copy and paste maneuvers by hand to make some pretty tables when you're just looking at one dose or one outcome. But of course, when we do a coverage survey, we're looking at numerous doses. We've got numerous indicators, numerous strata. And so we want to try to get the person out of the loop and have them not stand in between Stata and Excel or Word. And Suleiman has done a really nice job of having Stata do as much of the work as possible of putting the results into the table and the results into the figure. Sure, a few details need to be fixed at the end, but he's really in a short time gone a long way down the road of thinking about how would we scale this up so that it could produce as much as possible of the results without a lot of human intervention and possibility for human error. So I wanted to applaud that in front of the colleagues and for everybody to see that as a sort of an inspirational example. So thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Dale. All right, let's let me just go back. Whoops. Okay, yeah. Here, so we're back in my with my sharing my screen. So thank you very much, Suleiman, and yeah, Isabel and Marie-Ève both have a query, which I believe should be a piece of cake for any of the analysts, which is how to do the graph with a 95% confidence interval, preferably in Excel, and both are stuck. So maybe we can put to the test if there is actually a community here, and if there is anybody you can use, either respond in the chat, and perhaps after the session, if one of the analysts or one of the managers who knows how to do it could show in Excel, we can do that after the session if anybody who's able to say, okay. And actually, we have, in some ways better than that, Felicity has shared a link to add, change, or remove confidence intervals or error bars in a chart. So maybe it's as simple as following the instructions there. So we're already past the 40-minute mark, so I'm eager to go now to our survey manager, Mohamed Osama Mere. And I see there's a lot of interest in confidence intervals. Let me make you presenter, Mohamed. And yeah, here we go. And let me unmute you as well. So you should now get to have the prompt. Yes, perfect. How are you doing, Mohamed? And remind me where you are connecting from.
I'm connecting from Amman, Jordan. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, I see your screen, and I hope everyone does. Carolina confirms. So very pleased to have you. I'm going to think, unless Carolina, 7 minutes, all right with you? Yeah, she says okay. So Mohamed, you have 7 minutes to present your project, as well as the feedback you received and how you're making substantive changes to improve your initial draft. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rida. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to talk about the result of the survey, which was conducted to estimate the routine immunization coverage, especially for the polio 3, penta 3, and measles. And in addition to that, we have some other objective, like for the hepatitis and the BCG. Let me talk first of all about the overall response. For the household response, it was high. In addition to that, even for the children, 12 to 23 also, it was very high, at 98.6, while the overall response is 97.3. This is very important for us to identify the bias, that it is not that big. We can say the bias is minor. In fact, we have just made at the state level, we have concern, or not concern, but the overall response in Anambra and Borno is around 95%, which is much or which less than the other governorates. It's 95 in Anambra and 94 in Borno. Now, the age distribution here, it was given for the whole, because all of us know that it was mixed and mixed, and then we have for some of the states only samples only for immunization. But at the end, we have around 3.4 of the samples is 3.4%. They are from 12 to 23, which is a reasonable percentage of this age. The good thing that we have detailed of the characteristics of the sample household, the household sample by the dwelling, according to the residence, regions, sex, education, household head, and religion. And in addition to that, we have all most of the variables, they're weighted. I'll talk about the weight now. It was weighted according to the wealth index quintile, the respondents, the education of the mother, the area of residence, rural or urban, and region, and at the state level. In addition to that, let us say it's also we have the urban and rural, and by state, the distribution of the sample, which is very important for us. All of these variables, it's very important when we try to interpret the results later. Then we need to know which of these variables affect the results, which is high, maybe including high coverage, and which is affect maybe to be low coverage. Next, I will talk about how we try to weight the samples. In fact, we were working on 11 states, and then we tried to do the weight for both the households and the children. And I identified, of course, the tables, what we are talking about. Also, the weight was done for the sex, geographic zone, state level, urban versus rural, household, religious, ethnic groups. Of course, some of the oversampled in some states, oversampled samples, it was decreased, like we have in Kochi. I gave some examples from 1,661 children to 952 children. In Borno, as such, from 9,791 to 289, and so on. And it's the vice versa for some of the samples in some states it decreased, like in Anambra, because it was under maybe sample from 824 to 1,135. I'll not mention all of them for the sake of the time. Of course, as I mentioned, the weight was done for all of, even at the zone level, at the state level, sex, rural and urban. Then what I mean that if we look at the rural and urban, then we can see that the sample itself, it was weighted. The rural, maybe if I remember, it was increased, and the urban, it was decreased, because we need to have more representation for the rural, because it's around 67% of the total population. It's very important that to do this weighting, because to be the samples to be more representative for the oversample or undersample of some of the states. Here I tried to make what's the difference between the weighting and unweighting of some samples. In fact, I took an example of the urban areas. The sample, it was decreased from 14,852, which is 36.7%, in the unweighted samples, to 13,000 when we weighted the sample. So there is a decrease. If we take it, the percentage 36.7 to 33.2, while the children in the rural area were increased in the rural, in the unweighted, from 25,000 or 63% to 66% children. This is for the weight issue. Here I'm mentioning all the coverage, the results of the coverage for the BCG, for OBV and OBV1 and 23, for Penta1, Penta3, and for every one I try to mention the confidence interval, and which state is the least and which state is the most, and the difference between states and as such. But I'll not be able to go through all of this, but I prefer to go through. And of course, I mentioned the dropout, but we can see here from the graph itself that this is for Nigeria. We have, and of course, I was talking about the crude coverage and about the valid dose coverage in detail. But here it is in this graph, it's the crude. Let me just try to make it like this. Yeah, crude coverage for Penta1 and Penta3 at state level, combined mix and mix, 2016 Nigeria. And this is here the national. I took only the 11 state we were given like Penta1 is 50 and Penta3 is 33. Here the state northeast, all these states is the zone of northeast. Here the states of the zone of southeast here, which is, as you can see, mostly it's higher than the other zone. The states in the 6th state here, is much less than the 5 states in the north. And as you can see, even in these states, you can see the dropout rate is high, is more than 10%, and even it's much more than 10%. While here you can see that we have good coverage, we have good accessibility in these states for the first dose. As you can see, the list is 80%, the highest is 90%, and then, but the issue we have again, we have dropout more than 10%, like here we have more than almost 40%. Here we have almost more than 35%, something like this. So I think in addition to that, of course, I tried to go through.
Just a second, Dr. Mohammed, you are technically out of time, and you have some questions for you. So there are so one person pointed out the legend is missing, and that you need to label the y-axis. And another person said said you could add confidence intervals to this graph. Carolina confirms confidence intervals would be useful, and another person has pointed out the y-axis is not labeled. So could you conclude? I don't by saying something about the optional indicator on the one hand, and then if you could also tell us what feedback you received from your reviewers that you're going to act on to actually revise and improve your final version.
No, I'll tell you something about the limitation, which is the low rate of the cards. In addition to that, the low rate will not allow proper analysis of the timeline of the doses. In addition to that, there was no health facility visit to verify and to validate that the doses we were taking about. In fact, for the feedback, I think it was very useful for me, at least or two of the reviewers. While unfortunately the other one, I was not in agreement with the review of it, but I learned a lot from, or it was useful for me, especially for the limitation, because I was putting it in different way. But here I tried to make it in separate section for the limitation.
Okay,
Anything else? Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Mohammed, Imran Qureshi has a question for you. Why Penta 2 compared with Penta 3? Usually Penta 1 is compared with Penta 3, he says.
Yeah. Why?
And I see your graph shows Penta 1 and Penta 3. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. All right. Let me see. I know there was at least one. From Gnur Fateon Draman Palenfo, he says, thanks, Mohammed. You wrote that the weight was done by sex, geographic region. In my opinion, the weight is based on sampling, responses rate, and non-response, weighted % of each characteristic and then presented. He asks, am I wrong? So this may be a good time to turn to Carolina. And would love to hear an analyst perspective on this presentation as well. But first, Carolina, please go ahead.
Let's pass it to Dale for the weight. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, Dale, I've sent you an unmute request.
I'm responding to whose comment about weight?
So let me, let me repaste it into the chat window. So you wrote that the weight was done by sex, geographic region. In my opinion, this is Gunor Fateon's opinion, the weight is based on sampling, response, and non-response rate, weighted % of each characteristic can then be presented. Is that right or wrong, is his question.
Weight was done by sex, the weight is based on sampling, response rate and non-response rate of each characteristic. Yes, no, I think that's correct. That you have the weights based on the probability of selection and then possibly adjusted for non-response and post-stratified. And then when you present results by subpopulations, for instance, male versus female or geographic or some other demographic subgroup, you weight the estimates and we if even if the weights, even if those demographic characteristics were not taken into account when you applied the weights, you should use the weights when you do the sub, when you estimate results for subpopulations like that.
Okay, thank you. And Carolina, could I now turn to you and ask you to comment overall, what would be your review feedback on the presentation? And what would be your advice to Mohammed as he revises and finalizes this project?
I think this is his final one, if I'm not wrong. Am I wrong?
Yes, it's the final one.
Yes. So I think the main points are there. I like the structure very much because it's with subheadings, and I find that very, very useful when you're looking at it. So the subheadings of the analysis of the different tables, the figure, in the figure, yes, I would have added the label to the y-axis and the confidence intervals. I like the limitations and think they are relevant. There was a little bit of risk of selection bias, but from the data that we were provided, it was difficult to say. But there were some areas that were inaccessible in this survey. So that I'm not sure if that's in the material we gave the participants or not. And then the conclusions and I think they are there. So that's what I like about this project. There was some other project that I wanted to highlight that the person is not here, but just for the record, it was Matilde's project from Rwanda, where in the optional things she looked at the valid doses, and she noticed that there is very low, not only because card availability is low, but also because there are not a very small percentage of doses that are given early. And again, that's would make us wonder why. For the dropout, I think Dr. Osama noticed this, but other participants also noticed that dropout is higher for Penta 1 to Penta 3 than, say, for Penta 1 to measles-containing vaccine. And that would, again, would make us question why that could be, and we could look at missed opportunities, for example. So it would make us ask more questions. So for this particular project, one of my favorite things is how organized and to the point it is. And thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carolina. Dr. Harsavardhan Nayak also comments, Mohammed, you've done a commendable job. Shwini Narasanavar says it was very good. I got many inputs. I don't know if that's referring to your presentation or to his own project. Then there is an ongoing thread in the chat about adding confidence intervals to Excel figures. Dale's position is that there are thousands of tutorials and videos and how-tos already that you can Google, but Isabel reports that she looked for the one that would actually help her solve the problem at hand, and only after that did she turn to the community. So we are 1 minute away from the end of our final discussion group, and no, solving problems is what it's, in work is what it's about. So let me turn to Carolina so that she can say a proper goodbye. I will stay on, and we can see if we can do anything about some hands-on problem solving for confidence intervals in Excel. Over to you, Carolina.
Well, kind of sad to say goodbye. I have to run in 2 minutes. It has been an honor to be with you all these 17 weeks. I think I missed only 1 week. And please, as always, feel free to ask questions, to engage in the community, to be in the commencement ceremony on the 24th of January. And let's be in touch. You can always ask questions and we can discuss in our alumni survey. Some of you will hear from us about some revisions to the creator. And just stay tuned and let's be in touch. It has been my pleasure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Carolina. So the formal part of the discussion group is over. This is for the last time, as I keep saying. I'm having trouble believing it. So thank you all. Yeah. Unfortunately, today John has to run as well. He can share links on confidence intervals, so I'm hoping we can follow up on that. I haven't seen an analyst explicitly volunteer, so maybe we'll end here and let you get back to finalizing, revising, and improving your creator projects. Now, going to, if anybody else would like to say goodbye, please raise your hand, and we'll at least get that. Let's see, from from Mohammed Imran Qureshi, you have your hand raised. I don't know if that was about an earlier point. Go ahead, Doctor.
So thank you very much, all the course team. It was just fantastic to go through with this course. And frankly speaking, I learned a lot. And whatever I have learned over here, I have never learned anywhere else. So what actually I'm doing with this learning, I'm applying all these learnings in our daily work, what we have in our offices during everyday sessions with the managers, with other donors, with other partners, in terms of analysis, in terms of interpretation of the data, and so on and so forth. So thank you very much. I just want to say thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed Imran Qureshi. Anybody else who'd like to share before we go? I should have put this into the agenda already, but yes, Ridwan says, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Looking forward to complete this module A3. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year 2018. Isidro Karian, I learned a lot from the organizers and also from colleagues. Thanks a lot. Well, thank you all for providing such a wonderful platform for learning. Rogers Kotong Nongo. Rogers, go ahead. I've unmuted you.
Yes, it was a good opportunity to be in the course and to have all of you and the other course mates, and we hope we among those to follow the B part of the course and really have more opportunity to exchange with you and apply what we've learned. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rogers. All right. So, and then there are many Christmas and New Year greetings from Jaurès from Babayo, Yusuf, and Tsegaye Gute. I've gotten a lot of knowledge and skills in vaccine coverage surveys. Thank you, all of the course team. So, wonderful. And Dale says, I look forward to continued interaction in the new year. Rachel Sarayonge, thank you, Carolina and Reda. It's been a wonderful adult learning experience, particularly for those of us who had to juggle work and study. Indeed. So we're hoping on the 24th of January that you'll be with us so we can properly recognize this effort, and that other members of the broader immunization community can also, hear firsthand about your experience and about what you are going to or are already doing with it. Let me just unmute everyone, and season's greetings are maybe in order depending on where you are. Eliu says, very useful course, very great course team. So happy and sad that we will not be meeting next Wednesday. Nice family. Do join the alumni community, and we'll be sending the details about the design lab so that you can tell us what kind of community you'd be willing to contribute to that would actually help you in your work on the vaccination coverage surveys. So Kuadjo Kubahunde, Carolina, I'm waiting for you in Madagascar for our survey. Tsegaye Gute, happy and joyful New Year, happy Christmas and all, and many thanks and happy New Year 2018. So with that, spirit and with these final words, wishing you all well, and look forward to seeing you in the alumni community and next year in 2018, as well as probably for some of you with some back and forth to make sure that you qualify for the certification that recognize the effort you've put into the course. Take care. Wishing you all well, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you, Reda.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For admin's team, and
Es que la cosa está. Guay. Ha habido ni un día un sistema para conectarse. Gente que somos de no sé cuántos hijos de